I guess no one told St. Paul that all publicity is good publicity. He seems to have missed that. I mean, you literally have a demon announcing that you're a servant of God and you're going to teach people the way of salvation, and you get rid of it? Because this sounds on the surface like it's proof that even the demons are subject to the apostles in the name of the Lord. I think we could perhaps accuse St. Paul of having made a bad move by rejecting free advertising. But at the same time, if we're thinking in that direction, we could think of how often we come to hate celebrities because their fans are annoying. So, guys who are around my age, did Justin Bieber ever actually do anything to us? Did he ever really give us a reason to hate him personally? No, it was mostly the believers. And I think that if I also had a random person following me around yelling, "This guy's a Catholic priest, he can teach you about the Lord," I think that would actually be counterintuitive, because it would be really off-putting and rather weird to anybody who might otherwise be open to hearing the gospel. Not all publicity is good publicity, especially when you've got demons involved. Because we should be clear, demons have one objective, and that's to turn us away from serving the living God, to turn us away from the source of our life, to drag us into hell, to be miserable for all eternity. And obviously, you're not going to advertise that. Like, turn away from the source of your life, come to nice, warm hell, burn to a crisp for all eternity. Demons are smarter than that. They're not going to advertise that this is their objective. Instead, they're going to first try to make sin look attractive, as Satan did in the garden, where he points out that eating the fruit of the forbidden tree will make Adam and Eve wise. He says that it will make them like God. So he says that it'll make them able to determine good and evil for themselves in a blatant false advertising ploy. And then second, if I were a demon, you're going to make goodness look unattractive. You're going to make it seem like it's ultimately not in your best interest to be good. Perhaps you're going to follow a preacher of the gospel around and be really, really annoying so that people don't want him around, because then you have the annoying demon-possessed girl yelling about how he's a preacher of the gospel. So even if things like this, even if things that the demons do looks like free advertising, it ends up hurting the cause of the gospel. It's actually sabotage. And admittedly, most of us probably don't have a demon-possessed girl following us around yelling how we're preachers of the Most High who are announcing to people the way of salvation. If we do, we really should get an exorcist on that as soon as humanly possible. But in general, we're tempted to more subtle forms of cooperation with the forces of darkness. So first off, every sin is actually playing into the devil's hands. If his goal is to drag us away from God and into hell, the only way the devil can really do that is to get us to sin. Even if we have a good intention, even if we do something bad in order to cause something good, that's still a sin. Still turns our wills towards evil, still turns us towards being wicked people. The road to hell is indeed sometimes paved with good intentions. It's true that we may have to tolerate bad things, even evil things, for a certain amount of time, but there's a difference between tolerating those things and actually committing sin. We can never directly commit sin, no matter how good our intention is, because again, that's going to lead us down the path to being wicked. So, okay, every sin is cooperation with the devil in some way. It's what he wants us to do so that he can reach his goal. But there are sins that are more direct than others. So, if we're here for a Saturday evening divine liturgy, odds are that this morning we probably weren't worshiping Satan. I hope. If we were, go to confession, don't do it again. But in the 21st century, things I never thought that I would have to preach homilies on The actual sin of magic is becoming more of a problem. And here I'm not talking about people doing card tricks or Harry Potter sneaking around Hogwarts with his invisibility cloak. I mean the actual sin of magic, meaning the attempt to use spiritual forces that we don't understand in order to do things that range from petty to completely life-altering. These would be things like using Ouija boards, fortune-telling, going to so-called spiritual healers, practicing Wicca, other forms of magic. I'm just going to rip a quote from the Catechism of the Catholic Church here to say that these things all conceal a desire for power over time, history, and in the last analysis, other human beings, as well as a wish to conciliate hidden powers. They contradict the honor, respect, and loving fear that we owe to God alone. They choose a desire for power over loving surrender to the will of God. And besides that, they're fundamentally not trustworthy. Modern New Age spiritual practices are not backed by the evidence of science. They're not backed by solid philosophy or theology. They're not trustworthy. We call on the aid of God, of the angels, of the saints through prayer, through speaking with another free personal being. So, what are we getting involved with when we try to bind spiritual forces to our will with magic? We're dealing with something that isn't God, isn't an angel, isn't a saint. Best case scenario, we're talking to an imaginary friend who ultimately can't do anything for us. Worst case scenario, we're dealing with a demon who may temporarily do what we want, but always with a view to dragging us away from God and leading us away from true and eternal happiness. And besides that, let's not forget that demons are neither all-powerful nor all-knowing, so their supposed help might not even actually be that helpful in the long run. It won't be that helpful in the long run. So, while we shouldn't do things where we're cooperating with the devil and his minions, we also don't need to fear them either, because they're not all-knowing or all-powerful. By his cross and resurrection, Jesus Christ has broken the power of the devil for good. He's beaten, his power is destroyed by the cross, his power is ultimately no use to him, let alone to us. Anything that he can do in this world, he does only by the permission of God in order that God may bring about a greater good. And if we're tempted to, say, use magic in order to learn the future, thing is, we already know the future. We may not know what's going to happen tomorrow. For that, we have to trust God. The devil also doesn't know what's going to happen tomorrow. He's smart, so he can make a good guess. But ultimately, what we know is going to happen is the creation of a new heavens and a new earth in which righteousness dwells, from which all pain, sorrow, and mourning is cast away, and which is full only of eternal joy for all the saints who have seen through the false advertising of the devil and have had their spiritual eyes opened by Jesus Christ to behold the glory of God. And so as we begin this new week, as we continue throughout our lives, as we wrap up our celebration of Holy Pascha, let's ask for a continually opening spiritual sight so that we can see through the false promises, the false lies of the devil, and so that our eyes might be open to the vision of salvation so that we may walk in the ways of the Lord and ultimately come to possess the good things that he has prepared for those who love him.